Hello, good evening. For those who don't know me, I'm Laura. I'm a mom of four, and my, sorry, I am having some technical difficulties. All right, that's okay. We're here, and I'm a mom of four, and I am talking today about how to make variations of a recipe from your pantry. So basically, there are three different things that you can look at when you're in a situation where you forgot an ingredient, or you ran out of something unexpectedly. So the first thing that to be prepared for this kind of thing is look at the themes of the kinds of recipes that you make. So do you eat a lot of Mexican food, or a lot of Italian, or the German, Polish meat and potatoes, kind of recipes, and have kind of those things that go with those themes on hand. So the spices, or sides, things that go with it. Chances are, if you eat a lot of those foods, that you probably have a lot of those things already sitting around in your pantry. So that can be an easy thing to work around. So something, as simple as, a Mexican dish where I've done this many times, where I am short on something, and I'm like, well, I was going to make tacos, but I don't have taco seasoning, or I don't have, something that I wanted to use, and you can easily make that switch if you know that, okay, I was going to make enchiladas, but I don't have everything for enchiladas. I can make tacos. There's a lot of the same components in either one, and just learning what those spices are, that kind of takes us into the second one. So having number two is having those components that go with each of the themes, or the theme that you are working with. Having plain or one ingredient foods helps you to make those kinds of switches or variations, or modifications much simpler and a lot easier to work with. So, for example, if you are trying to make enchiladas, but you don't have enchilada sauce, but what you can do is, if you have tomatoes, if you have even canned tomato sauce or diced tomatoes, you can use that, as long as there's no flavor or spices already in there, then you can use that and add your own spices and herbs to it. So it's a lot easier to use one ingredient foods, and even better if they're fresh, but I know fresh is a little bit harder to have on hand, so that's why we're talking about pantry items here. So a lot of times I like to keep those plain one ingredient foods in my pantry, like plain diced tomatoes and broth, and those kinds of things kind of hanging out. And then I always have my list of array of spices and herbs excuse me, spices and herbs that I know what go with what. And that's also part of it, is getting to know your spices and herbs for those different themes. So I didn't know for a long time that oregano was actually a really important herb and flavor in Mexican food. I had no idea that oregano was one of those. That kind of rounds out the flavor with the chili pepper and the cumin. Oregano is in there, and I didn't know that for a long time. And it's also a pretty big component in Italian food, and so knowing your spices and herbs is really good and really useful when it comes to utilizing and modifying your recipes with what you have on hand. So the third thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm going through these really quickly, but the third thing I wanted to say was don't be afraid to experiment. I have experimented with a lot of different things over the years, and my husband and I have kind of coined it, like, I make something and he'll be like, what is this? Is this something, when it's something new that I will, when I don't really have an answer, so like what it's called or what exactly it is that I made, he always just calls it a hodgepodge. So it's to dinner a hodgepodge, because it's usually something that I'm experimenting with and I don't really have a name for it yet. And that's okay. I've had, I think, more successes than failures with experiments on things that we have liked and have come back to. So don't be afraid to experiment with your herbs and spices, with different variations of recipes. And sometimes what I like to do is I will kind of Google some recipes and see what is the reoccurring theme of one recipe. Usually those are like the main components that you need to make the flavors go in the right direction. I hope that's helpful for you to kind of get started trying to think about how you can plan your pantry items around to have the different things at hand in order to fill in the gaps, when something happens that you didn't get at the grocery store, you forgot on your list or something. That is all I have for you. So if this was helpful for you, if you are interested in more content that I have, and what you can do is in the description is, if you're watching this on YouTube or on my own page, then you can find the link to my Facebook group where I put all of my tips and tricks and everything, and you can grab my free guide there as well. So thank you, and I'll see you next week.